Hello and welcome to another episode from the water's edge. The evenings are now pulling out and today's been a really nice day, so we've come down for a short session after work. We've only got a couple of hours, and with that in mind I needed to pick a method that I feel is really aggressive and is a way to catch fish really fast. So I've had a little think and I've come up with the idea. I'm going to be fishing a method that has actually been responsible for some of the biggest and best match wins over the last couple of years. Not many people have been using this, but it has been doing really well. Most noticeably is Warren Martin, last year's Fishermania champion, actually had a couple of fish on this, big fish down the edge, and it really did help him towards that title. Let's have a little bit more talk about the information on the rig. Let's get to the peg. Okay, let's talk a bit more about the baits for the session. As I said, it's a nice simple method but has been responsible for some great weights, and that's not actually because of the method you're fishing, it's because of the way you do it. Now all it is some groundbait and in the hook some big dendrobina worms. This is that simple. Now normally with groundbait you'd find yourself packing it into tight balls, cupping it in and then fishing over top of it. This method has been so productive just because of the way it's been fed. Basically all it is groundbait, not nipped together at all, loosely fed, just creates a big cloud. The smell's there, but there's nothing left to eat apart from two great big worms sitting on your hook. So that's pretty simple much to get. What I'll do is I'll mix a bit of groundbait up. Now, I don't particularly think it matters what groundbait you use, as long as you need quite a lot of it. So don't be sparing, it is a really aggressive way of fishing. So I'm just going to put two groundbaits in there, the two particular I've chose, the Krill and F1. Now it would literally just be a case of adding water to that, mixing it together. Now you mix it in exactly the same way, you're not doing anything different at this stage. As I said, the only thing different is the way you feed it into your peg. So give it a good mix, make sure it's quite heavy, not too wet, not too dry. And that probably is good enough. We'll get that into the peg shortly. And as I said, on top of that, just two big dendrobinas sitting there in a pile with a nice smell, but nothing else to eat. Have a quick look at the rig and then we'll get fishing. Okay, before we have a look at the rig, I'm quite eager to get some bait in the peg and we'll let it settle for a couple of minutes. Now as I said, this whole method is all about how you feed it, and I believe if you're going to fish like this, there's no point doing it half-heartedly. It's very aggressive and a great way to catch fish quickly. All we're going to do is I'm going to probably start with 3 or 4 cups of this groundbait. But as I said, I'm not squeezing it, I'm just going to be feeding it completely loose. And it's quite a long way where I'm fishing. I'm actually fishing 16 metres over to the far side. The reason being is because this method can't really be fished in deep water due to the fact you're feeding loose groundbait. It needs to be fairly shallow, if not nothing's going to be getting to the bottom. So it's just going to be shipping out there now. Be careful not to spill too much as it is all loose. At our spot, and it's just cut that all out. There's one in. Straight back for another one. Do this 3 or 4 times, big potfuls. We can already see with that first pot we put out, created a lovely cloud. Anything swimming around there should already be smelling it, taking a little bit of interest in it, trying to find something to actually eat in that pile. Number 2. Bit awkward shipping this out because it's got a high bank behind me. Just take your time doing it. Well, that's the last pot out. I'll quickly show you the rig we're going to be fishing. It's nothing special, it is just a standard margin rig. The only thing is it's quite beefed up because you can catch some big fish like this, fishing tight against islands or down the edge. We'll start the elastic, we've got double 10, that is tightened up as well, so it is quite a strong double 10. It's a lot more powerful than you may think. That comes down to 018 G line, very very strong. I use this in most of my fishing now. 018 or 020 has become a big style of my carp fishing. Float I'm using is a Durafloat 10 4x14, quite heavy, nice and stable, and that's actually taking 6 number 8 shots, which are all bulked out of a couple of droppers near the bottom to get them worms straight down. Hook choice is a Gamma Power, quite a big hook, size 14, because that's going to be taking a couple of big worms on. That's basically the rig. Let's slip a bait on and we'll get fishing. Well, we just nicked a couple of worms on through the head. As I said, you got a nice big bait, 2 worms. One last thing to mention before we have the first cast. Big baits like this with worms, they will wriggle over your hook point. So if you just give them a quick couple of slaps on the water, that's going to stun them and stop them losing you a fish that could be that all important one. Anyway, that's enough of the talking. Let's go out and see if there's a fish there. Well, would you believe it? Probably a little bit as I expected really. The float has gone in and just absolutely buried. The fish is actually attached to my line, appeared the other side of the tree, and some almost miracle you could call it, has actually come and swam exactly the same way as it's gone in. I literally do not know how we've still got this fish on. But this is what I was saying, it's such a deadly quick method because of it. I truly believe there's just nothing there for them to eat apart from those 2 great big worms sitting there. It is so quick, and no wonder why over the last year or so it has had some of the biggest match weights around. As soon as I went out there's indications on the float, all sorts of life in the swim, one liner, and then we're attached to one. This fish comes in, it'll probably be the luckiest fish I've ever landed. Just keep changing the angles on the fish. I'm not afraid to use my puller bung. As you can see, I've got a lot of elastic on here, and this elastic is tight, but the line, I'm so confident in it. You need to get a rig, the hook, line, everything. You need to be really confident. Fishing like this is not for the weak-hearted. You want to sit there and let your fish run around. This is not the sort of method for you, especially fishing the way I am in between 2 trees against a far bank. There's only one thing that fish is going to do, exactly what this one did, go through a tree. It's getting ready now. Looks like a nice size common. Plodding around. A good fight up though. Well, the first fish is ours. As I said, a bit of a miracle. Still pretty feisty in the net. Hooked nicely in the mouth there. He's absolutely engulfed them worms. Let's have a quick look at him. Attached to his fin a little bit. But there we are. Probably 5 or 6 pound, and the rig has not been in the water any longer than 30-40 seconds. Brilliant method, brilliant fish. Let's see if we can have another one. great start. Keeping in context with this aggressive method, literally every time I hook a fish, or if I haven't had a fish in 5 minutes, I'm going to go out of another big cup, and I mean every single fish. Like I said, this is ultra aggressive. You think of a fish that size, 5, 6, 7 pound, kicking off as you hook it, this loose ground bait's just gone. It's going to be everywhere. You need to be getting that bait straight back on there and back over with your worm. Let's get going. Close.